What's up, guys? This is Chris Matakas, and so many people don't fulfill their potential on and off the mat, and I don't want you to be one of them, which is why we're creating these videos. So stick with me. If you're a white belt who just started training, I'm going to give you 3 easy tips to focus on right away to get the most out of your training and make progress long term. So if you just got like your first stripe on your white belt, this is for you. So first up, mind map, organize your education. So I would probably venture to say that as you're starting to train and you're acquiring like all these new techniques and lessons, it probably feels like your brain is cluttered. Like it's probably like you've got an empty garage and every day the instructor gives you a new tool and you're just throwing the tool in the garage. And then you got your first stripe on your jiu-jitsu, you open up the garage door and there's just this like mound of tools that are not organized. At least that's what the experience was like for me. So one way I rectified that, which I would love for you to do, it's called mind mapping. So rather than have all these random tools in just a cluster of nonsense, you want to start to create the architecture of your jiu-jitsu. So very simply, it would be like I would write close guard and then write all the techniques I know off close guard. Then I would write side control and all the techniques I know off side control. And I would just start to create this web of all the techniques I was learning so I could visually see how these things applied to one another. And just by being able to detach and zoom out and look at, oh, okay, this is how this links to this, and this technique links to this position, and X, Y, and Z, it gave me a much better understanding of how all of the techniques and principles coalesce into like one homogeneous experience. So organize your education however you want to do it. You could just write a list like close guard. Here are all the techniques I know from close guard. Side control, all the way down. But I found it was best to try to create a map and drawing connections between the techniques and the positions, because that helped me really understand jiu-jitsu, and more specifically, it helped me really understand where there were not connections, where you may realize like, man, I've got this nice kind of symbiotic relationship between like my techniques in guard, side control, and mount, but I've got nothing relative to the back. And that's going to inform your education to start making those connections. So I would definitely create some variant of a mind map so you can organize your education. Second thing is ask questions. So if you start training, there's this weird dynamic in academies where it's like you want to be deferential and respectful to the lead instructor, but also they're there to serve you. So you want to open up the lines of communication. I would just from the get-go ask questions. If you exist in a culture where that's okay and a good culture that will be welcomed, do that all the time. Every class I would try to ask a question because it shows the instructor that you're sincerely trying to understand this. And I know as an instructor, I am more favorable toward the students that ask really good questions because I know they're right there with me along for the ride, trying to take the information in my head and put it into theirs. So if it's an effort on both our parts and not just a one-way street, as an instructor, I'm more inclined to give. So as a student, I think it's your responsibility to open up that line of communication and ask direct questions. And then thirdly, pay attention to your breathing. So let's just get right into the training. When you are training in the beginning, it probably feels a lot like chaos. And if you're on your first stripe in your white belt or early on in your white belt journey, you probably just started live training. So use your breath as the litmus test for the success that you're experiencing in your technique. And what I mean by that is I would always use the rule you should be able to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose and not have to open your mouth. And if you can breathe just through your nose, it means you're doing the right things at the right time. And more specifically, you're not going the laborious route of doing the wrong things at the wrong time and just trying harder. That doesn't work. So if you're only breathing through your nose, you really are forced to slow down. And if you just pay attention to your breath will tell you the amount of resistance your body is experiencing while you're training. And that can be a really good guide just to bring you through jiu-jitsu in the most efficient way, where you're actually doing the martial art and not just beating your head against the wall. So I really think in the beginning, if you focus on these 3 things, you'll make radical progress. So in review, mind map, organize your education, get it all out there so you can detach and see it. Second, ask questions, start to develop that relationship with your instructor where they know you're sincere about learning. And then third, pay attention to your breathing. If you can only breathe through your nose and maintain that standard while training, you'll be forced to rely on technique and not physicality, and your technique will get much better, much faster. So I hope this is useful. If it is, please join me on this ride. Let's really get good at jiu-jitsu and fulfill your potential on and off the mat. So like the video, leave comments, subscribe, and if you know someone who this would be useful for, please share it with them, because my goal of this channel is simply to help you fulfill your potential on and off the mat. And I know a lot of people don't, and I don't want you to be one of them. So that's why we're going to make these videos. So I wish you a happy training, happy life, and I'll talk to you soon. Godspeed.
Grips, hips and shield.